How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Thorn's Jungle. I hope you have all been having a great week. Now, before I get into it, I do have a Patreon, which means for as little as $3 a month, you can be a Patreon member and receive an extra episode of Thorn's Jungle every week. So if you want to hear or see more of me, head over to my Patreon. The link will be in the description and become a member. I hope to see you there. So this episode, I was inspired to make. Unfortunately, a couple days ago, there was a fatal shark attack in Australia, in Sydney, Australia. A surfer was bitten in half by a large great white shark. Super tragic. I'll never say it's not tragic. Although people do know the risks when they go into the water, or they ought to. You are going into the shark's home. That's where sharks live. Maybe if they start coming on land, we should be more concerned. But this was a surfer, and surfers are the most aware of the risks of sharks when they go into that water. And often, they are the biggest advocates for sharks after a shark attack. You know, when people call, oh, we need to kill the sharks. Often it's the surfers that come in defense of the sharks. But given the nature of this attack and the size of the shark, it was apparently around 5 meters long, which is about 15, 16 feet. Big shark, very big shark. So I started thinking, what are some of the biggest great white sharks that have ever been recorded? And I do remember years ago hearing about a few that were captured or sighted that were just bloody, what the hell was that? Scared the shit out of me. Bloody enormous, but too big to be real. So when you hear of great white sharks growing 10 meters plus, so over 30 feet, it's not true. I don't think there ever has been a modern day Carcharodon carcharias, great white shark, that has ever been 30 feet. That's not to say great white sharks don't get bloody enormous, because they absolutely do. I decided to go with great whites just because they are arguably responsible for the most fatal shark attacks around the world. Now, the bull shark is up there, maybe on par with the great white. But I think the bull shark would probably be responsible for more shark bites than the great white, but great whites are responsible for more fatalities when it comes to attacks. And I'm fortunate enough to live in Australia, which has the most fatal shark attacks in the world, and Western Australia, which is where I live, has the most fatal shark attacks out of anywhere in Australia. So Western Australia is the fatal shark attack capital of the world. So yay for Western Australia. We've had some pretty bad ones right off here, really. I mean, I'm 2 minutes away from the beach. So yeah, we've had some pretty bad ones. And every time it happens, you know, it makes the news. Now, when I say shark attacks, happen the most in Australia, it's still super rare. We're talking about a few a year, which is still a tragedy to those involved, but realistically, it's still super rare. I mean, even just this morning I was watching the news and a 17-year-old girl was killed by her pet dog. Dogs kill more people than great white sharks. In fact, you're more likely to die driving to the beach than actually dying from a shark attack. They are super rare. I can go through all the statistics. You're more likely to die from a coconut falling on your head than a great white shark. You're more likely to die falling into your dishwasher and being impaled by a knife or something than a great white shark. So they are super rare, but when it happens, it is very gory and catastrophic, okay? Given the size of great whites, they're not the biggest shark in the world. You know, obviously we have whale sharks and basking sharks, which get significantly bigger than great white sharks. There are also sharks like your what are they? Hexacondoids, which is like the cow sharks, your 7-gill, 6-gill sharks. They get close to the same size as a great white shark, around 5.5 meters. Some hammerheads, like the great hammerhead, can be 6 meters long. Tiger sharks can be. You got your sleeper sharks that can get bloody enormous, 5 meters up to around about 8 meters. So there are sharks that get close to, if not bigger than great whites, but great whites are far more actively hunting sharks, like ambush predators. They take sea lions, they take sort of faster moving prey. And of course, the odd human. But I'm going to do a completely separate episode purely on some of the most notorious shark attacks. But for now, I'm going to talk about the largest scientifically, or as scientifically as they can get, recorded great white sharks. Some of these date back to the 50s, some of them very present day. But let's get into it because, great white sharks, we all seen Jaws. Jaws was actually the movie that was the first blockbuster. They invented the word blockbuster movie because of Jaws. And it actually didn't serve sharks too well after that movie. They were kind of frowned upon. Now, I will just say, before I get into listing off some of these enormous great white sharks, I will say, just because these sharks have been recorded at this size doesn't mean these are the biggest great whites that are out there. The likelihood of people catching the largest great white sharks out of the entire ocean, I mean, great whites roam a lot of oceans in the world. The chances of a lone fisherman or fishermen catching the biggest is pretty damn little. It would be like, aliens coming down and out of the 8 billion people putting a grabber down and grabbing Robert Wadlow, who was the tallest man in history at 8'11.5". Pretty unlikely now because he's dead, but that's an example, right? So there is, or probably worse, great white sharks bigger than these examples, okay? Now, I'm reading from a list. They're not in chronological order, so the dates will vary. So the first one is on the 22nd of May, 1989. Good bloody year, because it's the year I was born, even though I look significantly older than what I actually am, unfortunately. It's the Aussie sun. It gets ya. So 22nd of May, 1989, Ledge Point, Western Australia, of course. There was a 5.94 meter great white. You know what? Can't believe I didn't do this already, because a lot of yous watching don't go by the metric system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert it to feet for you. Just because I can. Now, what the fuck does that? No, sorry about this. Once I get it up and running. Okay, 5.94 meters, which is 19.5 feet. So that was caught in 89 off WA, off Western Australia, and its weight was about 2 ton. Okay, big shark. That was confirmed, purely confirmed, and that was caught, right? So all of these, most of these on this list have actually been captured, okay? And I guarantee you they weren't released, unfortunately. November 2001, in the East Sea in China, a 6 meter great white was caught, which is 19.75 feet. That's close to a 20-footer. Oh, I've got the bloody hiccups. I just sculled an energy drink. God damn it. Nearly a 20-footer. And it was 2.5 ton. See, the thing with great whites is, and this is very similar to crocodiles, an increase in length by only a foot or two could mean an increase in weight by hundreds of pounds. Just that small increase. So, for example, crocodiles, if you look at a 5-meter crocodile and a 6-meter crocodile, there can be nearly double the amount of body weight in the 6-meter crocodile versus the 5-meter crocodile, even though there's only a meter difference. It's pretty spun out. 1952, going all the way back, Streaky Bay in Australia, a 6.9 meter great white was captured. So that's bang on 20 foot. That's a 20-footer. Enormous shark. It was periodically hooked by several fishermen. It was hooked by Alf Dean, but broke the line. Estimated to be easily 20 feet in length. So that's an estimation. We all know fishermen. You know, it was this big. You know, they'll catch a minnow, hold it right up to the camera, and it looked bloody 3 feet long. So not confirmed, but, you know, probably a big shark nonetheless because it's in Australian waters. They all seem to be bloody massive. 1983, Prince Edward Island off Canada. The old Canadian shark, eh? Sorry for biting your leg off, eh? Sorry to all the Canadians that had to endure that Canadian impression. It was another 6.09 meter. So 6.09, not 6.9. 2.5 ton. Another 20-footer, and that was verified by a marine biologist called Gordon Hubble. Not to be mistaken for the telescope, because telescopes don't have the ability to look at shark lengths, and they're not humans. All right, 13th of October, 1956, a 5.89 meter, which is close to the 20-foot mark, was captured off France. France of all places. Maybe you dropped in for a croissant. Its girth was estimated at 400 centimeters, so 4 meters. What's 4 meters? That's what, 13 foot? 13 foot girth? Yep, 13 foot girth. That's a girthy shark. Now, that thing not only has length, it has girth. Oh, God, that's rare. All right, 1996 in Kenya, a 6.4 meter great white was captured, 2.2 ton. The shark was cut apart before it could be photographed and weighed in total. See, the problem with that is when you start cutting it up, you lose bodily fluids, which would add to the weight. So not only blood, but for example, if you take the liver out of a shark, the liver makes up something like, I don't know, a third of its body weight or something insane. So you can't get an accurate weight of an already slaughtered shark, unfortunately. So that would have been an estimated weight. But the length would probably be pretty accurate. Unfortunate it was killed. All right, we got a big one off Cuba in 1949. 6.4 meters. 6.4 meters is 21 foot. Actually, I think there's a photo of this one, the Cuban one. It was estimated to be 3.2 ton. Bloody enormous. I think the photo of this one, they're all sitting on it, on the dead body of it. It's in black and white, so I'm assuming that's the one, and it's like a famous Cuban giant shark captured. All right. 1997 in Taiwan, I think there's a photo of this one as well, was 6.7 meters, which is 22 foot. That's ridiculous. 2.5 ton. The only photos of this shark, though, utilizes forced perspective. So likely that the shark was a little bit smaller than this, depending on the forced perspective. So forced perspective is if you hold something closer to the camera, whatever's behind it looks way smaller. They used it in Lord of the Rings with Gandalf and the hobbits and stuff like that. And fishermen are well versed in the forced perspective method of photographing stuff. So that was the Taiwan one. In 1987, Kangaroo Island, South Australia, a 7-meter one was apparently captured, which is 23 feet, which is, I think that's the biggest so far that we've got, 2.5 ton. And it was like estimated to be 7 meters, but some people think it might have been 6 meters. But the original length of 7 meters cannot be disregarded, which means it could have been both. But looking at the weight of it at 2.5 ton, a 7-meter or 23-foot great white should be significantly heavier than that. That's only my sort of 2 cents. All right, now we've got the famous Malta great white shark, which was captured in 1987. It was apparently 7.14 meters. Did I get that right? 14 meters, which is 23.5 foot. Now there is a photograph of this one. It's close to the 3-ton mark. Some people say it was more like 6.6 or 6.8 meters. But if that is the lower estimates of this shark, that is still, as far as we go, the largest great white ever captured. Because obviously when you say something's this long, there will be a million people going, oh, I don't know about that. I think it was probably significantly smaller than that compared to the scaling of the things in the background, blah, blah, blah. But the lowest estimates they could come up with is still the biggest shark, like great white shark. There's even a note here saying the original reported length of 7.14 meters is still possible. Now we're getting into the realms of ridiculous. 1978 in Azores, a 9-meter great white was apparently captured. I've tried to find the photos of this, and the photos I found, which are apparently from this shark, doesn't look like a 9-meter shark. And for those using the freedom metrics, 9 meters is 29.5 feet. I'm gonna call BS on that. It was apparently 4.5 ton. All it says is the photos were examined by John Randall. Doesn't say if it was confirmed or not, but it does have a listing here of 6.1 meters, so around the 21-foot mark, which is way more realistic than 9 meters. I think 9 meters is just too ridiculous. Although we've got one from False Bay in South Africa that was apparently 10.3 meters. 10.3 meters long. Now, 10.3 is nearly 34 foot. I'm gonna call BS on that because that's just ridiculous. There's no other information about this shark. All they could find about this shark was a reference to it in a book, and that's the only thing. There's no date, there's nothing. So we can probably completely disregard that one. Long Island, New York, 1975, a 9.14 meter one was apparently caught. Wait, hold on, 9.14, pop that in. That's a 30-foot shark. Now it's got the cited by charter captain Paul Sundberg. He harpooned it, but the harpoon broke and it got away. It apparently left a 30-inch bite mark in the bottom of his boat. Again, I could probably disregard this one. and say he was probably mistaken. When you're under duress, everything looks bigger and scarier to you. It's a fact, okay? It's to make you, I guess, more scared of the situation and want to avoid it even more. 9.14.14 centimeters. That's a pretty elaborate and like matter of fact measurement that this guy apparently gave as he was harpooning it and it was biting his boat. You know, that's it's a pretty like specific number. But I think we can disregard that one. 1978 off Montauk, a 7.62 meter great white was caught. 7.62, 25 foot, bang on. It was apparently weighed 1.3 ton. It was harpooned by another charter captain, John Sweetman. That sweet man. And it towed the boat for 30 miles before it broke off. So again, this wasn't confirmed, but how about this? Okay, how's this? So it wasn't confirmed, so because it wasn't fully captured and it wasn't landed on land to be measured or weighed. It got away before they had the opportunity, but it was sighted by Paul Sundberg, the charter captain that spotted the 9.14 meter one in Long Island. He apparently saw the whole thing go down. So it seems this Paul Sundberg has somehow, he's been witness to two sharks of enormous proportions. Something's sounding a little fishy, you know, mind the pun. That was a completely on purpose pun. Wasn't that good either. All right, in China, 2008, so we're getting recent. A 10 meter, 2.67 ton, so a 30 footer, a bit over, was apparently captured. Now, the reason why this one is disregarded, obviously because it's 10 meters, it's over 30 foot, absolute no chance. But it was listed at 2.2 ton. Now a 10 meter great white shark would weigh close to 10 ton, okay? If you look at a killer whale, so some of the male killer whales can be 9 or 10 meters long, you know, 30 foot for sure. But they will weigh about 9 ton at that size. And looking at the bulkiness of great white sharks, they're not too far off the bulkiness of an orca, okay? So that one, you know, we'd probably say they did catch a big great white shark. If it was 2.26 ton, that is still a huge great white, massive great white. They did a disservice botching the numbers like that. 2019, Hawaii, a 6 meter one was caught. So a, you know, close to 20 footer was caught. Oh, that was deep blue. So that one wasn't captured. So deep blue is still alive now. People have swam with it. What's her name? Ocean Ramsey. She swims with deep blue. Deep blue is the largest great white shark that we can sort of still keep tabs on and we know is still in the water. So she was sighted off Hawaii 2019, but first spotted in Mexico in 2013 and again off Hawaii in 2019. Deep blue is awesome. So I will say that I can safely say all of the sharks on this list are female. Female great whites get significantly bigger than the males, although some males do get bloody huge. But great whites are strange. They don't really reach sexual maturity until they're like the 4.5 meter range, which is 4.5 meters. I'll tell you right now, about the 14, 15 foot mark. So great whites don't reach sexual maturity until they're, you know, quite old. I mean, you know, they're not ready to mate after a year, is what I'm saying. I think deep blue is estimated to be like 60 or 65 years old. So that's another reason why great white sharks are kind of, well, they think they might be critically endangered, because they don't reach sexual maturity until they're like fairly, you know, they've got to live a fair few years, and they get quite big. And I don't blame them for only reaching sexual maturity once they're like 15 feet, because the mating rituals of sharks is pretty damn brutal. You'll see sharks, great whites especially, with just absolute, like, annihilated. There's scars all over them. And that's probably from mating, all right? And that's another reason why the female has to be bigger than the males. One, to see any males off that might want to eat her. And two, just to survive the mating process, because it's rough, man. It is rough. And male sharks have 2 penises called claspers. And you'll see it on that anal fin. You'll see 2 like long things coming out. And you can like open it up and there's semen in there. Semen. Sperm. Semen. All right, 1930. Jeez. A 10 meter, yeah, another 10 meter one, only listed as 2.2 ton as well, so BS. They do estimate this one was 5.17 meters, which would make complete sense given that weight. You know, that's a 5.17, that's a close to a 17 footer. That's nothing to, you know, it's nothing to shy away. That's what I don't get. These sharks' confirmed sizes are massive, so there's no reason to, you know, over embellish the size of these sharks, because they're already massive. They're legitimately massive. 1987, Phillip Island, Victoria, Australia, 6.33 metery, 2.5 ton. Its stomach contained an entire seal, and its teeth were 2 inches long. So that's a 21, 22 footer all day long, baby. All right. There was another one that actually made it into the Guinness Book of Records, and I remember seeing it as a kid in the Guinness Book of Records, the biggest great white ever found, and it was 10 meters. And it was captured off Port Fairy in Australia. And I remember even as a kid seeing that size and going, bull, no way. No way. When you get, so a good sort of rule of thumb when it comes to animal measurements, especially ones that are like prone to being super over exaggerated, like for example, anacondas and crocodiles, things like that. If the size discrepancy from the biggest confirmed, like fully scientifically confirmed, measured and weighed, if the discrepancy between those ones and the, you know, reported ones are so much different, then it's probably BS, okay? So a confirmed 6 meter great white, and then the next biggest one up, like biggest one is like 10. That is too much of a jump to be realistic, all right? If you're gonna lie about the size of a shark, don't jump 3 or 4 meters like in size, because then it's just super unbelievable. You just don't believe it. But realistically, scientists estimate that the upper sort of limit of a great white shark in terms of length is 7 meters, so 23 feet, which is stupidly huge. And we've had confirmed ones swimming off here that have been a little over 6 meters. And I remember, we're going back to when I was maybe 14 or 15, just off the beach here, a confirmed 6 meter great white was cruising up and down in very shallow water. And it was summer, and I was like, hell yeah, I'm going down there. Went down to the beach, got in the water, and I could see like the shark spotting helicopter going over. So it must have been right out in front of me. I couldn't see it though. which sucks. But it must have been just out in front of me. Looking back on it, it's probably not the smartest thing to do. But the thing with great whites, and actually most shark attacks, yes, great whites will eat humans. They absolutely do. Whether or not they intend to actually seek out a human being and eat them is up for debate. I'm not saying that they don't, but I will say that yes, most shark attacks are accidental, so to speak. It's mistaken identity. If you're swimming in murky water and a shark can't see you visually, they will turn to other means to investigate you. They have what's an organ on their face, on their body, called the ampullae of Lorenzini. That you look closely at a shark's snout, you'll see little black dots. That organ is used to pick up electro like outputs from living things. So they can find you that way. They also have a very acute sense of smell. So they don't have to see you to be able to find you. But when they do find you and they want to see if you're something that they can eat or not, they'll give you an investigation bite. A little inquiry of the sharp variety. Now, if a 15, 16, 20-foot great white shark gives you a little investigation nibble, that means you're in half, right? Even if it isn't like meaning to eat you, it is still probably going to kill you just from that little inquisit bite. Ah, what are you? Clunk. Oh, you've halved me. So, like, people swim outside of cages with great whites quite a lot. Nice, open, blue, crystal clear water. Sharks will look at you and go, I'm not really fussed with you. Why would I eat this bony thing that is covered in metal tanks and all this weird sort of stuff when I can eat a nice, fatty sea lion, you know? So, yeah, sharks get a bad sort of rap in that sense where, oh, the poor guys, they're probably not meant to eat you. But looking at some of the fatal shark attacks on the Fatal Shark Attack sort of database, there are people that have been completely consumed by sharks. If not, you know, they've just disappeared and all they found is a Speedo. So that's not to say sharks don't eat people, because they absolutely do. Okay? It's just the reasoning behind it. Do they mean it? Do they not? Like, I think there are lots of cases where they do actually mean to eat you. They're opportunistic. They see something in the water, they're gonna, yeah, of course, you know, that's just what happens. Anyway, so, and another one, there was a shark spotted off South Africa. Might have been Durban, might have been Cape Town. It was on either side. I can't remember which side of South Africa it was, but it was nicknamed the submarine because when people would see it in the water, it was that big they'd think it was a bloody submarine going through the water. They reckon the submarine was 7 to 8 meters long, more likely a 6 meter great white shark, maybe a little bit more. And I can't remember the last sighting of the submarine, but given the fact that great whites do live quite old age, she could be still lurking there. So pretty damn cool. Actually, not cool, because I am swimming with sharks in South Africa next month. Okay, yeah. Anyway, what can you do? Not go in the water is something you can do, but you know, yeah, whatever. We all know the risks. I could slip down the stairs after this and get eaten by a shark on the staircase. It's unlikely, but hey, stranger things have happened. We've all seen street sharks. Street sharks, they lurk behind dumpsters and things like that. And that's based on a true story. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting. Largest great white sharks ever confirmed or not confirmed in some of these cases. But yeah, pretty interesting, and I hope I didn't terrify you out of the water. Stay safe, everyone. I'll see you next time in another episode of Thorn's Jungle. Take care.